Today, I'm going to show you everything that you need to know about spatula painting. All right, let's begin. So I guess a couple of things first that I really like you to know is that yes, it's easy. Yes, it is a quick technique, but this is really interesting because you're going to be using texture. You're going to be pulling people's eye in to a visually pleasing piece of art, okay? There's a couple of things that you do need to know for spatula painting. You could do it in any color you like. This is not something that you're locked into doing the colors that I'm doing. I just want you to think of the texture and the dragging and the stuff that we're going to talk about today is usually done in a contrasting color. So today's two contrasting colors are obviously going to be red and blue, because can you get any better than that? I don't think so. We have barn red and we have pure ocean here. So to begin with, what we're going to do is paint this entire board in this color just as a base to start this kind of textured spatula painting. All right, ready to go? Paint with me. Okay, so I've done 1 and kind of a half coats of the beautiful red on my cabinet door. If you were doing this in a piece of furniture, I would suggest that you do 2 even coats of your base color to give you the coverage that you need for a base on this project, okay? So now I've done my 2 coats of barn red on this cabinet, and we're gonna pretend that this is like a whole piece of furniture, y'all. Make it work for what we got here, okay? So the next step is to dirty it up some, because this textured spatula finish isn't something that's nice and clean and neat, okay? There's a couple of different ways to achieve a kind of aged effect and a faux finish, and I'm gonna show you one of the ways that I like to do it, especially on a nice, deep, rich color like this red. So I have got some black caviar on the floor, I've got my spray misting bottle, I've got some paper towel, and I've got the new Best Dang brush sitting right here ready to help me do some blends. This is how I add a little bit of age. I'm gonna take my black caviar and start to put it into the crevices. I want it to be where this piece would naturally carry the dirt, where something would naturally age in a deep dark way and the dirt would settle in, is always in the crevices, okay? I want you to think of a piece of furniture like a piece of art. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this and blend this out, okay? You can use a paper towel. You can either spray your piece and then kind of wipe it back and add that age, almost like that black wash that we did last week. Okay, there's a couple different techniques, but really nothing is the right way or the wrong way, because I want you to think of furniture like art. It's all done in the way that you like to add your detail, your texture. So this is one way. By patting it in and adding that age to the piece, you can really see kind of how that would give you some depth. So let's look at a couple different ways that we can do that. So just taking your black caviar and putting it on the piece. You could also take your Best Dang brush, mist it with water, get it wet because it seems to work better when it's a wet kind of a blend. And I'm going to take my black Caviar and just kind of move it around the piece a little bit. I love these Best Dang brushes for blending and adding kind of a really true effect because they just fade out really, really nice. So there's another way we can add some beautiful, rich texture to this piece. I'm just going to keep going and putting this down where I want to put it. I do like the paper towel and pat method. I think because it leaves some of the darkness in the lines where I like it, it just seems to be the way that I like to age my piece. You can spray your piece or you can spray the towels, up to you. And it's okay if this pulls back and shows the wood underneath, because depending on what kind of surface you're working on, you might want to show a little bit of that wood. You might want to show a little bit of that age and that texture on your piece. So I'm going to use my Best Dang brush again and just kind of move some of this fake age, this fake dirt around. I always like stuff a little bit darker in the corners. We're just going to work together and kind of get this where we like it to be. Not going to lie though, this brush is kind of fast becoming my new favorite thing. I've done a really great couple ombre blends on my Facebook page if you felt like going back to see, with really pretty blues, really pretty deep greens. I don't know, this blending brush is making my job quite easy, y'all. Very easy. I recommend it. Get one, play with it, because it is a lot of fun. So let's just keep adding this black Caviar until we can age this little cupboard door up to look a little bit less new. I don't want my things to look new, especially in this technique, because this is going to be a lot of paint dragging after this. We haven't got to the spatula part yet. We will. It's looking good so far. Looking good. You could do this with Midnight Sky. You can do this with, you know, a coffee bean or a brown color if you felt like you didn't want it to be so black. But I personally like a little bit of a heavy age. Again, with the padding, moving around that texture. Let's add a little bit more dark down here. Okay, so now we've taken that kind of red base that looked pretty new and we've made it look a little dirty. We've aged it up a little bit, okay? All you're doing is taking something that's nice and bright and shiny and new and making it just look a little bit more distressed. So do this until you're happy with how much dirt, how much age you add to your piece. But I do like the shadowy base. I do like a lot of black on red because I do find red very bright and sometimes a little bit hard to not work with, but to make look old. So I do like to wash it in black when I can. You could also do this with wax if you prefer. This is one of those techniques that will work in any manner you like, but your base should kind of be aged to match the next step that we're going to do on this finish. All right, you ready to play with some paint? This is how we're going to do the next step to our spatula painting. So you can get these little plastic spatulas from the Dixie Belle paint page. I do like the plastic ones better than the metal ones because I find that when you're doing your dragging technique, it's not as scratchy. If you're using a metal spatula and you're dragging down, you could sometimes scratch your surface, and you kind of don't want to do that. We're going to start to build some texture and build some layers onto this piece. And these little guys are very cheap. I always grab them. I actually need some more because I use them with my Dixie Belle mud as well. I always grab them when I order just to keep on hand. All right. So here is where a little bit of art comes into play. When you're looking at a piece of furniture, remember we're pretending that this cupboard door is attached to a piece of furniture. You want to look at where the age would naturally happen. If you were touching this all the time and the handle was over here, it would be a lot of where the handle is. We've already put our dirt in and our age and darkness. Any of the interior areas where it's kind of recessed are going to be a little bit darker. So now when we do the spatula dragging, I want you to think of it like an old door, like a big old door that's being left in the sun, left to age. All the paint is kind of peeled away, many, many layers of paint, and this is what you're going to get. So I have on the floor Rusty Nail, Gold Digger, and some beautiful Pure Ocean. You could use Peacock, you could use whatever you like. Remembering that it always works well for brightness with a contrasting color. When you think of your color wheel, what's on the opposite of red? It's blue. They always go really well. Think of those complementary colors. What's on the opposite of orange? It's purple. So think about these things that are brights that work well together to kind of draw your eye in. So I'm going to start first of all with some Rusty Nail, okay? And we're going to dip your little spatula in, and you're going to get messy, all right? You're going to get dirty, and you're going to have fun. And we're going to drag some of this paint down. This paint is just a little bit lighter than what we're working with. And when I drag it down, you can kind of feel where it grabs and where it doesn't grab. So I like to have my paint do this kind of really variegated textured feel. We're going to play with some water. We're going to kind of pull it. We're going to use the chunky bits of paint from your lid because this stuff is like gold. This chunky bit of old paint, or all those old paints that you keep that have like this much left in the jar, that stuff is good stuff for paint pulling, for this textured feel. I'm going to start every area that kind of is raised on the top where this natural fade would happen. So by taking your Rusty Nail and just pulling it down and creating this texture, you're going to start to build some layers. You could also add a bit of sea spray to your paint and get that really great chunky feel. But we're just going to start to build these layers on the piece. You don't want it too perfect. You don't want it too clean. You want to think of it more organic and more just kind of lightly drag and build the layers rather than, you know, smash on a ton of paint and have to take it back off. It's easier to keep adding than it is to take away. But if you felt like you put on too much and you wanted to take away some, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. All I'm doing is just dragging some of this chunky, delicious paint up the piece and start to fade out those edges. This color is close to the barn red, but it's just that tiny bit lighter. Okay, so I'm gonna look at this and judge what I've done so far. I feel like this is a little bit too much. I feel like it's a little heavy up here on this section. So I'm gonna take my spray misting bottle filled with water. You can either spray your towel and just kind of pat it back, or you can actually spray your piece and cause more runs to happen. It's up to you. I just didn't like how thick that texture was, so I'm just gonna pat it back a little bit and move some of that paint around. So that is the first step, is taking a similar color, a like-minded color close to that red, and we're gonna start to add some layers and add some texture. Okay, so now we've done our Rusty Nail over top of our barn red. I'm gonna wipe off my spatula a little bit and we're going to change it. I want to add even a bit more depth. I'm going to take a tiny bit of my black, okay? Going back into the Caviar, again, taking that nice chunky good stuff off the lid. And we're going to just do the same sort of thing that we did with the Rusty Nail, even going over top of those other areas, just creating a little bit more darkness on this edge. I don't want it to look new. I want this stuff to look old and crusty. If this is too dark for you and you felt like this is just aging your piece too much, by all means, you do not have to add more dark, but I like it. I like everything a little bit more over the top. I like my things to be visually interesting. So I'm just dragging some of this black Caviar over top of what I've already done, just to kind of give it a bit more depth. There's a little bit too much here. I'm going to take it off with my finger. And we're even going to spray it. Let's get in here with our water and spray it a little bit and cause some of these really great runs and drips to happen. Don't be afraid to spray things and let your paint move a little bit. Getting that moving, that texture, that feel is kind of part of the process. I do like runs and drips. If you don't like them, you can always pat them back and make them less, I don't know, visible if you wish, okay? So far we did the barn red, we added that black Caviar to age up the piece. I came in here with some really cute little Rusty Nail. I got some great texture. Let's add some more fun. So this is where that contrast really starts to happen. This is where you start to see some really great things happen. I've wiped off my spatula so I don't have any of the excess paint. And again, using the chunky bits, right, from my lid. So you can use Peacock, you can use Pure Ocean, you can use whatever blue you like. But watch how fun this is and how great this pops on this red color. So again, just taking a little bit of that blue, and let's start to drag some blue down and make some magic happen. It starts to look really, I don't know, Southwestern. These colors look fabulous together. I don't do a ton of it. Remember, you can always add it on. It's harder to take it off. And I'm definitely gonna pull it, which is where if you're using your sea spray, it's gonna start to look really textured and really fun. I'm pushing it over the edge, and I'm gonna just reload my spatula with the paint. Now look, accidents happen. I just dropped it, go figure. Let's take it off, let's fix that, because we don't want that in the middle, right? This is why it's always good to do stuff and teach people. Let's just spray it and wipe that part off. Honestly, if I was live, I'd be like, surprise, something crazy always happens when I'm live. But I'm pre-recording this so that I can reuse this information and really give you guys the best part of this experience. So I'm gonna leave that in. I'm not even gonna edit that out. We're gonna leave in the errors so that I can show you how to fix it if it happens to you. So again, pulling it down, all on the edges. Anywhere where like the sunshine would hit, where you would get that natural wear and tear on a piece, this is how you're gonna do it. You're gonna take that blue and drag it. I love it. I love it when a piece does this and gets that really kind of pretty little scratches. You can come up from the base if you felt like it, just touching these edges. And if you wanted to mash it in a little bit more, you can. You know, you can wet your paper towel and move this around. So now I'm gonna look at this again and go, where do I like it? Where do I not like it? I feel like this is a little messy. So let's take a little bit of this off. Not hard to do when you're using your paper towel as your tool to kind of manipulate your paint. I felt like it was just a touch heavy there. I just wanted to take a little bit off and drag it. Okay, so now I'm gonna hold this up close so you can see a little bit of what I'm doing. Can you see how great that blue accents on the piece? It looks so good with the red. It is my favorite way to kind of give a Southwestern vibe to a boring front. I'm gonna hit this with my heat gun and dry what we've done so far because I have even more that I wanna show you, so stay tuned. Okay, so I've brought you in even closer to my board so that you can see the next step to this process. And this is where we're gonna get even more messy. We're gonna use our fingers and we're gonna do a little bit of finger painting. So on the floor, I have some Gold Digger, which I really like to play with when it comes to adding some texture and some shine to a finish. You can do this the same way that you were doing by adding your Gold Digger with your spatula if you felt like it, but it is fairly bright. So I'm gonna show you another way to do it. I'm gonna add a little bit just on the edges, just to see if I can get some of those fun little dots that I love, that paint pulling dots. I like it when stuff gets really kind of, I don't know, textured and delicious. So we're just gonna add a tiny bit more up here and we're gonna start to move it around a little bit. So keeping your hand light and really pulling it. Making those fun little textured dots come up. And this is also gonna dry. Gold Digger always dries like that little bit different than when it looks wet. So remember, you're kind of gonna move it around and it's gonna dry a little darker. Okay, so let's go back to the finger painting part. So I'm gonna look at my piece again like I always do after I kind of do a little bit of a drag, and I'm gonna assess. Well, I see that this is a little heavy for me. I don't want the gold to be the focal. So I'm gonna start to spray it a little bit. We're gonna move it around. We're gonna spray it and we're gonna drip it. Because when you spray Gold Digger and it starts to drip and become movable, it creates almost like a shimmer. It creates like a gold wash. It just takes your paint and shimmers the whole part of it. Everywhere where this water runs is going to add a shimmer. If it's too much for you, you can easily wipe it back, but just know that when it dries, it's not going to look the same. It's going to definitely have a shimmer to it, and it's going to be less strong. So I do like to spray my golds, and I do like to drip them down a piece to add that shimmer. You can also take your fingers, okay? You're going to take your fingers, and we're going to do a little bit of finger painting. I like to really just use my fingers and gently touch all the edges. I like to get in here and add that little bit of gold that a brush just can't do. It just looks authentically better when you touch it. I don't know why. It's just the way I do things. I like to touch edges with my finger and give it a little bit of shine. If you feel like it's too much, you can always spray it and move it around. I'm going to run my fingers over top of all of these little edges and patting it in and getting it looking a little bit more, I don't know, real. Because if anything was sitting out in the sunshine, if this was an old door sitting at a beach, you know, getting exposed to all the elements, none of this would be so perfect. You can't think of painting as like something that needs to look so perfect all the time. It's kind of better when it's more organic. It's kind of better when it's a little bit messy. It's just the way things tend to look, and I like them to look a little bit more true. So now you can see this door, you can see this gorgeous shine, right? All of that gold is going to dry, shimmery and soft, and it's going to look like $1,000,000. I'm going to insert some pictures into this video of some previous pieces that I did in this color pattern, and you guys are going to be blown away because it looks super, super good. So you are the boss of you. If you felt like you wanted more blue, you wanted more, I don't know, going back in and adding in that rusty nail. Say you wanted to add more of the rusty nail because you just loved it. There's nothing stopping you from building layers and going back over the stuff that we just did. You can be the boss of you, and you figure how every look is going to work for you. You know, don't think of art as like, oh, I have to get in here and copy exactly what she did. I want you to kind of make it your own. I want you to start to think about how you could take this and make this design work for you. How you're going to manipulate it to be your own version of a spatula painting, because this is pretty cool. It's very easy, it's very messy, and it's a lot of fun, and I think you'll really like it. So I want you to give it a go. And if you do like it and you create something in this manner, send me a picture, because I'd love to see. I'd love to see what everybody's making and creating from all of the little techniques that we're learning today, because it is a lot of fun. So get out there, get messy, play with your paint, use your spatula, use a knife, use a rag, use a paper towel. Find what you like to create something magical that works for you.